Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this training on the unit record report for the 2023-24 reporting utility. We're pleased to give you this overview and provide you with updates regarding refinements and enhancements that have been incorporated into the program this year, and also to provide an additional update regarding the ctcLink PeopleSoft data systems used by the State Board for Community and Technical Colleges. Presenting today is Stephanie Casino, Senior Functional Analyst for Financial Aid at the State Board for Community and Technical Colleges. She will be providing us with the details regarding the ctcLink PeopleSoft end of the preliminary preparation for the unit record used by the community and technical colleges. Marla Skelly, who is the Associate Director for Compliance here at the Washington Student Achievement Council. And my name is Ann Voiles. I'm the Program Associate for the Student Financial Aid Division here at WASAC. In addition, I want to present to you the members of our Unit Record Report Review Team this year. We have Nisha Griffiths, who is our Receivables Coordinator, Debbie Jackson, who is the Assistant Director for State Work Study, Calvin Romaker, who is a program manager working with Debbie in the State Work Study program area, and as well Marla Skelly and myself. With that, let me go ahead and turn the program over to Marla, who will get us started.
Great, thank you. I am going to turn my video off so that you can pay attention to what's on the screen, and we will answer questions as we go. So first, I want to welcome you to the annual unit record review. This is something that we know is very time consuming, and we are presenting a lot of information, but we believe it's important information. And just keep in mind that everything we're talking about today is in the unit record manual. So I will be emphasizing that a couple of times through the presentation, that the manual is your best friend. One of the things we start off with is, why do we do the unit record report? And basically, the information that you provide on the unit record provides institutional comparisons that we can make across the state, not just in the sector, but from institution to institution. The information measures the needs of the students in the state of Washington and the students for whom you serve. And we rely on this data for advocating on behalf of students. It's our way of identifying needs that we may not know about and express those to the legislature to say, hey, we need maybe some changes to a policy, or have you considered those kinds of things. It also helps us to look at what unmet need might be out there. Any information that we get, we have external clients and customers who say, how are these aid programs helping our students? So through that and through the information that we give them, it informs potential changes to the programs through modeling proposed changes. And probably one of the biggest things is that it provides centralized data repository so that we're able to run reports for those external constituents when they ask for them. The aggregate information is really important to how we provide that information. So the timeline, the manual has been posted and it's available at this URL. So you should be able to go in and look at it. During the rest of this month, we're providing the training. The portal training website is available for file testing and the practice of the unit record features. The unit record was supposed to open on Monday, the August 12th, but we have had to postpone it a couple of days while we're clearing up an issue from the 22-23 unit record. We do hope to have that remedied by the end of this week. We will let you know when you can go into the live portal and upload the data if you're to that point. But you can practice, you can go into the portal training and upload a file or go within the system, whatever you need to do. Then you have until October 14th to finalize the information and upload your data. And we will then review that information in the months of October and November. It's our goal to finish all of the work that we need to do by December so that we can respond to legislative inquiries, any kind of internal inquiries that we may have. And once we've done that and finalized all 66 colleges, we will then be able to provide the institutional profiles that you're so used to receiving. Last year was a really challenging year, and I think we all felt it. It took a very long time to review. So that's why we've added the additional reviewers, and we do hope that we're able to get this home much sooner than we did in the 22-23 year. The manual has basically 5 pieces. You've got the introductions, the 3 chapters, and then the appendices. The introduction is really the place where you can look at a glance to see what the overview is, purpose, changes, and the timeline that I just talked about. And then you've got the chapters, the general instructions, data definitions, reporting application user's guide, and then the appendices. The appendices are really your friend. They are things we'll talk about, the separate appendices we'll talk about a little later, but it is a really important part of the manual. There are 5 different appendices. You've got the appendix that lists the need and non-need based program recipients that need to be reported. B is the record layout that has the file format and valid inputs. C is the system edits that prevent file upload and import, something you're going to want to familiarize yourselves with. D is a quick lookup by financial aid program, and E is a quick lookup by the unit record report field name. This is where all the details are laid out. You all know that you have to complete a CSV layout so that you can submit your report. On this, you want to report only students who receive financial aid based on the 23-24 FAFSA or WASFA year. And we may have some new folks in this presentation today. And so the WASFA stands for the Washington Application for State Financial Aid. We use the term FAFSA and WASFA basically interchangeably. So, or maybe we may just use FAFSA, but we're always, when we say FAFSA, we're talking about generally both FAFSA and WASFA. We need you to review the field definitions in Chapter 2 of the manual and the record layout in appendices B and C to determine the valid field content. The students you need to report, as I indicated earlier, are those need-based recipients from the 23-24 where the FAFSA or the WASFA is required. We also want the need-based recipients from other programs where the FAFSA or WASFA data may be available or not. But if it's need-based, we want to know about it. And then we want you to report all the federal loan recipients. So the non-need-based loan recipients. So we're looking at federal direct unsubsidized loans, federal direct plus, and federal grad plus. Those need to be reported.
Marla, you have a question.
Beth has a question. Is there going to be any consideration given for the ongoing issues with FAFSA simplification in regards to the timeline and due dates? Beth, probably we'll be looking at all that for the 24-25 FAFSA unit record year. But since the 23-24 is still dealing with the current FAFSA, we have not made adjustments to that timeline. We'll assess that as we get closer to the 24-25 unit record. I hope that answers your question. For need-based, when we ask for need-based recipients, what we're doing is trying to capture all the financial aid disbursements in the unit record report. So this year, of course, is reporting all the 23-24 folks who filed a FAFSA or WASFA. And next year will be those who were on the 24-25 FAFSA or WASFA. It's all yours, Stephanie.
Thank you, Marla. To generate the CSV file and related cleanup reports or the supplemental reports, you'll enter your institution and aid year 2024 in the state financial aid reporting component. You'll enter the designated file path, set your report type to blank and select run. In the process scheduler request page, you'll select unit record, click OK, and the report file is generated in the CSV format with the header row, which includes those who received awards for 23-24 aid year. And the ctcLink unit record report selects need-based recipients and non-need-based federal loan recipients.
Programs to report are listed on this slide, and you will be receiving updated a copy of the PowerPoint. And I just want to let you know that you can read this as well as I. These are the programs that we consider need-based. And one note I want to make you aware of is that if you have DACA students who have valid work authorization, they're the only ones who should be able to work under state work study. The other caveat is the teacher shortage conditional grant is not to be confused with the student teaching grant, but this list is all of those need-based programs that we've identified. Apparently, we have a number of other questions. I do want to respond. Beth asked, but the issue is that we're overworked and struggling to get caught up right now. There just isn't enough time to do both. Unfortunately, we have a timeline where we have to meet deadlines with the legislature that starts in January. If you're not able to complete the unit record by that October deadline, you can certainly talk with us and tell us how much time you might need. But we also are under a very tight timeline. So we will do the best to accommodate you. But I would hope by October that you've got your awarding going for 24-25 going forward. So are there other questions? Okay. Other programs that need to be reported. Again, the slide, you can read through this, but you might wonder, why do we want all these programs? And it's basically, we need a complete picture of state aid so that we can report what is going on with our students in the state of Washington. So these are all ones that you should be aware of. I mean, WASOS, any need-based institutional gift aid, worker retraining programs, etc. The federal non-need-based loan recipients I talked about in an earlier slide, but these are, even though they are non-need-based, this is part of the financial aid package where we're often asked how much borrowing, need and non-need based, are the students in Washington taking out. And so this gives us a really good indication of how well need-based grant and work study programs are doing their jobs. We do have pretty high borrowing in the state, but this helps us inform the external people what kind of dollars we're talking about. So they need to be reported. If your need-based recipients receive BFET funds, and they're easily reported out of your system, we would like you to include the amounts that they receive for that period of time reported for your recipients. These funds should be reported as workforce training funds. Stephanie?
Thank you, Marla. There's some global setup for the unit record report that State Board maintains, and this consists of the ethnicity categories and the award categories. And within the award categories, we have need-based, FAFSA, WAFSA data required or optional, non-need-based loans or other, and the award maximum amount. And there's also some institution-based configuration. This consists of the URR ethnicity category linked to PeopleSoft ethnic group values. And last year, we updated the ethnicity category on your behalf as there have been hundreds of ethnic background codes added to the system. There haven't been any changes since last August, and we've noted that in our SBCTC unit record manual. And then on top of that, there is the award category piece, which is linking your FA item type and award status in your institutional setup.
Changes for the 23-24 unit record report. There are only a couple. We did have to correct the field name for the WCG bridge. That should have been, and we reported it incorrectly, but we left it as WCG bridge, and we're changing it this year. It is WA bridge. So you'll see that change this year. We also were able to refine the override comment edit capability. So that's something that you'll see, and Anne will talk a little about that in her part of the presentation. We do have some changes to the error codes for the 23-24 year. On the total need-based aid exceeds the reported need amount. During 22-23, that was an informational error. We are changing that to an overridable error for 23-24 because we realized that schools were not really looking at the informational error, and we needed to have more information on that particular edit. So you will need to review those and make sure that if it is an over award, that it is a valid over award, which in my mind is they didn't have any state aid, or some of their need was met with unsubsidized loans, or other primarily unsubsidized loans that can replace the EFC. We removed the enrollment does not match need duration because we have other mechanisms to look at that and try and get to that, but we will potentially be reviewing those, and if we need to talk to you about what you're doing at your particular institution, you'll hear from us. You can refer to pages 3 and 4 in the manual for additional details on these error code changes. We do know about a few of the changes we'll be making in 24-25. We hope to, it's one of the things we do because we need to get this information to you as soon as we can so that you can prepare. But we are we do have the Washington College Grant Connect program, and it will need to be reported in 24-25, sorry. Keep in mind that that program does not require the FAFSA or the WASFA. That is a program that is totally predicated on the benefits that people might be receiving, and they may receive Washington College Grant if they are a benefit of a social program. I would encourage you, if you have questions about this program, to talk to the need-based program folks, Carly or Gabi. They have much more information on this if you need additional information. The Washington College Grant Apprenticeship and Native American Apprenticeship may become unit record reportable in 24-25 or 25-26. It really depends on if and when this information is awarded through the portal. And as in any year, any additional programs could be added if the legislature enacts them. As soon as we learn details, you will learn about it as well. The CSV requires a header row, and the revised sample is available in the manual, and it needs to match. It needs to be the one that all of those elements need to be in your CSV report. You can see the required fields are the standard fields that we've had over year, things like SSN, their name, gender, enrollment statuses for each of all terms, and the financial aid for each of the terms for which they're enrolled. We want you to report non-need-based aid that is received by students if they had any need-based recipients. So if the majority of their aid is non-need-based, but they have even $1 of need-based aid, we want you to report those. This is where we're looking for that entire resource package. Financial aid, basically you have 5 terms. It really depends on the structure of your academic year, but you've got summer 1, fall, winter, spring, summer 2, and then you have your clock hour schools. You need to, if you're summer 1, you're going to report summer 1, fall, winter, spring if you're a quarter school, and summer 1, fall, and spring if you're a semester school. So this is just an example of the kinds of things we're looking for. You can review chapter 2 in the manual for more detailed information. Fields to also report for 23-24 FAFSA and WASFA filers are the ICER WASFA transaction number. This helps us identify what income and what demographic information you're using for the person you're reporting. Are they dependent, independent, expected family contribution, cost of attendance, need duration, and need amount? Special notes about selected fields. One of the most problematic fields that we have is the Social Security number field. We had a number of issues in 22-23. Duplicates are not accepted. So if you have files that have duplicate SSNs, it won't upload. But in addition to the duplicate SSN, we are really asking you to be aware of the different Social Security numbers for the same person. Examples happen. Social Security number is typed in wrong, inverted in some way, or they are a WASFA recipient and they had a particular SSN last year and they open a new SSN, an application with a new SSN, and they potentially got aid under both SSNs, even though it was the same person. So for this particular instance, the discrepancy reports, which Anne will be talking about in more detail, will really help you because they will jump out at you. Those students where there's a Social Security number problem. We also don't if the SSN is invalid, it'll be flagged. So things like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all nines, all fives, just making up a number doesn't fly. The SSNs of WCG, CBS, Passport to College, and Bridge recipients are compared to whatever is listed in the Seesaw record. The other programs like Teacher, WAVE, National Guard are all compared to other portal records. So we really encourage you to look at the discrepancy reports. They can be very helpful. Guidance for the resolution of the SSN issues is included in the unit record manual. So I would encourage you to look at that if you do have Social Security issues. This slide is just listing what the definition of year in school is. And so one of the ones that tends to be a little problematic is 8, because that is for non-matriculated Running Start students, for example. When considerations for year in school, we encourage you to not automatically use the year in school reported on the FAFSA or the WASFA. We all know that students often aren't real sure about what their grade level is. They'll either underreport or overreport. So use what you have for your information. Report the highest year in school for which the student attended when the student's financial aid was dispersed. So if they make a change from senior to grad student, that's something that you'll want to report them as a grad student, even though it's a little confusing in terms of Washington College grant. As I said, Code 8 or other is used to report need-based aid for Running Start or other students who've not yet graduated from high school. On family information, we're looking for family size. Keep in mind, if they're dependent students, the family size should be 2 or greater. If they're independent, it should be 1 or greater. And number in college must be 1 or higher. And you can't exceed the family size. If you have parents in college, normally they're not included in number in college. But if you complete a PJ and you want to count them, that's entirely up to you on a case-by-case basis. But make sure that if you do change that you process it as such. For family income, you report the family income, taxable and untaxed, based on the review of the 23 FAFSA or WASFA. Generally, we'll be looking at the 21 income from the FAFSA or WASFA. If, however, you did complete a professional judgment decision to affect that income, make sure that you resubmit that ISER so that it comes back and you have the appropriate family income that you did PJ for. Report integers without dollar signs or cents. And in this particular field, you can and should put negative numbers. So if they had farm or business loss, something like that, and their income is a negative $100,000, put that negative in. We review that. For expected family contribution, we do use the federal methodology calculation that's produced by the Department of Education, or WASFA that's provided on the WASFA. Even if you use institutional methodology for your institutional aid, that's great. But when you report on the unit record, we want that federal methodology calculation. Of course, you may adjust EFC with professional judgment. Again, make sure that you reprocess that ISER so everything matches. And the EFC should reflect the number of months reported in need duration. So EFC, duration, and COA should all match. for that period of attendance. For cost of attendance, we know that most campuses use several student budgets to reflect changes in the living expenses. So we want you to report the student budget amount related to the need amount, and you should base that cost of attendance on the number of months reported in the need duration. COA, need duration, and EFC must align for the same number of months. Oscar said EFC and need duration no longer exist. They do in 23-24. We're still talking about the 23-24 academic year, not the simplified FAFSA with SAI. Need amount constitutes cost of attendance minus expected family contribution should equal that need amount. We base all three items on the number of months reported in the need duration. For need amount, report the amount used in the disbursement of aid. And need amount is reported as 0 or higher. You do not report a negative value. Over awards will be flagged when the cost of attendance minus EFC minus EFA, or estimated financial assistance, equals a negative need. We did have a number of those issues in 22-23, and I suspect we will have some of those in 23-24. You don't report negative values, and any negative need amount values will be changed to 0. Need duration is the number of months for which the need reported. And normally that's integers from 1 to 12. But if you have a 9-month budget set up and the student leaves after 1 term, you are not required to recalculate everything to a 3-month duration. You can, but you're not required. We really rely on you to use whatever policy you have in place for any adjustments to this. So if you do adjust one element, you need to adjust all. This is just a slide of the standard term enrollment status. I just want to note that career schools, for every 300 hours of attendance equals full-time, with the exception of the final term. That can be a different number of clock hours, and clock hour schools could have 5 terms to report. Stephanie?
And within ctcLink, the enrollment statuses are pulled from the FA load field on the FA term page, and the FA term values are translated and included in the CSV data file. And you can see those values listed here on the presentation.
We want you to report the final awards and enrollment levels of students at the time of disbursement. So the unit record reporting tool checks awards against the seesaw records. So there is some comparisons taking place when you submit your unit record. Again, make sure you report the differences reports, because they really they identify all the recipients and that the awards are correctly reported. You can see at a glance if there is some discrepant information. So really use those reports. For tuition waiver dollars, it is required that you report those during the 23-24 academic year. We want an accurate representation of all forms of assistance that needy students are receiving. So we want you to put the full assessed tuition and fee amount in each student's cost of attendance to reflect tuition prior to the application of waivers. And there are 2 basic waiver types, need-based institutional gift aid and non-need-based institutional gift aid. So you need to report that waiver in the appropriate field. On state work study, you need to report on and off-campus employment separately. Report the student's total gross earnings, including employer match or institutional share, and include summer employment. The total amount that you report needs to be very close to what was reported in the final recon to state work study program staff. If there isn't, you may need to work with the state work study staff to address any of those substantial differences. So if there's a problem, you'll probably be contacted by Debbie or Calvin. There are two fields for the other for institutional gift aid. It's either need-based institutional gift aid, and that's where the WASFA or FAFSA is required. And the award is solely or partially based on that. And then non-need-based institutional gift aid, which is all institutional grants and scholarships without regard to the FAFSA or WASFA.
Marla, we have a question from Millicent about it goes back to the cost of attendance, the budget item.
You could, the question, I don't know if all of you can see this, but so we'll have the same issue as last year when a student does not attend the full year and after the fact they are over awarded in order to report the correct COA. We'll have to adjust the COA to match enrollment terms, which may make the student over awarded. That's correct. We do allow for a tolerance of $300. But if the cost minus FC minus aid is in excess of need, then we're going to question you about that. There are other state-funded gift assistance programs, and those are things like American Indian, Early Achievers, Gold Star Book Stipend, Washington Scholars, programs of that nature. They will need to be reported as other state-funded gift assistance if you have those programs. So we're moving on to edits to talk about those. We have edits to ensure data quality. We will have 2 informational edits effective for 23-24, and those are the ones that we've had for a number of years. The date of birth is outside the expected range, or the expected family contribution is outside the expected range. An example of date of birth is they're born in February of 1942. If they're your student, you just look at that and say, oh yeah, that's good. It's informational. You don't necessarily have to do anything with that. It's just informational for you. Appendix C lists all the errors and what action needs to take place for your information. It's a good place to go. There are errors that prevent file upload, and you can refer to Appendix C, page 82 in the manual. And some of those errors are things like the header rows missing or invalid. You have duplicate SSNs, which we talked about. Invalid codes, if there are blanks. There are 12 of those edits, and so make sure you review all 12. They will prevent you from moving forward. There are non-overridable errors, and those are ones that must be fixed. Again, they're in Appendix C, pages 82 to 85 in the manual, but examples are non-resident, but they receive WCG or other state aid. Your number in college is greater than family size, or there's no valid institutional state work study allocation in the portal. If the file upload worked, but then the secondary edits run, These will require you to correct the student record before you can submit. So there may be places, additional edits after you complete your initial run. Overridable error examples, again, Appendix C. It's a really informative, and someplace you should probably bookmark. Need amount is 0 with need-based aid. So when the budget changes with dropped credits, they're overridable. Year in school for aid type. This is when I talked about changing from, say, a senior to a grad student. That's an overridable aid, error, sorry. Cost of attendance minus expected family contribution calculated by the edit program does not equal need amount reported by the college. You will need, that is overridable. I mean, it is an overridable error, so you'll need to address it. Stephanie?
Thank you, Marla. When you generate the unit record CSV file in ctcLink, it produces 3 supplemental reports or edit reports. And it's recommended that these reports are reviewed and worked in the order shown here. The first one is the missing item type report, and this will identify any FA item type that has been awarded to a student with an amount greater than 0 and qualifies to be reported in the unit record report extract file, but the item type doesn't exist in your institutional configuration. Next, we have report B, which is the error detail and summary report. The first tab contains a list of students who have 1 or more errors, and the error message number and description are included. And the second tab contains a list of all error messages encountered on the first tab with a total student count for each. And you can refer to Appendix C in the unit record document for suggestions on resolving each error condition. And we have report A, which is the student detailed report. This report provides a list of student details to be included in the extract file. In addition, the dollar amounts for each award received by the student is tallied and provided in the total column. Now, there was a question earlier about the law bridge and not being able to update setup yet. That is because the updated mapping is not available in production yet. But in the meantime, you can continue to run unit record as it is in production to generate these reports here.
So some reminders on the edits. Keep your override comments brief, but with sufficient detail to directly explain your edit response. What might make sense to you is a little bit confusing for us, so make sure it is something, it answers the question or what the error is. Report family income using the WCG income calculations, not federal total income field from the FAFSA. So income reported in CSOF for 23-24 should reflect the WCG income calculation. The ICER and WASFA transaction numbers reported should be the most recent used to award the student. It's not necessarily the last ICER you received, but make sure that you list the ICER transaction number you used to award the financial aid. We use that to compare the FAFSA WASFA to the unit record in CSOF for discrepancies related to family income, family size, number in college, and expected family contribution. The comparisons appear on the tab in the unit record student record. And that's really a good tab because it really shows you exactly what's gone on with that student. We use it a lot. I want to share with you that page 32 and 33 of the WCG CBS manual has the definitions and what you need to do when calculating the family income for a dependent student and for an independent student. You all should know that for a dependent student, you're using just the parent's adjusted gross income or income and non-taxable income. Don't include the student's income. And for an independent student, you use the student's AGI and non-taxable income and that of the spouse if the student is married. And then there are some further exclusions that you can make if you choose to. So take a look at page 32 and 33 in the WCG CBS manual for more information on that. Report an adjusted expected family contribution according to need duration if a student attended less than full-time, full year, if that's your standard practice to do so. If one element is adjusted, you must adjust all. EFC, need, COA, and need duration must all be aligned. What we found last year in a number of records is that you may have adjusted the budget and duration, but let's say they went only 6 months. You didn't necessarily adjust the EFC, and so the EFC being at the 9-month EFC indicated that they didn't have as much need as they might have. So if you do adjust those elements, make sure you adjust EFC if you are able to do that. I mean, obviously 0 EFC is 0 EFC. Report all known race categories for each student, even where Hispanic origin is marked. Why? This eliminates gaps in the research data. We do use this information when we report out to legislators and other external clients. If you award full-time, full year, and they don't attend half the year, and if it's not your standard practice to review COAFC, you're not required to do so for the purposes of the URR. However, if you award for other than 9 months, you must adjust all elements to match. If you adjust one budget item, you must adjust them all. Stephanie.
Thank you, Marla. The ctcLink unit record report basic steps are as follows. Reconcile awards. Add or update your unit record report configuration tables. Run unit record report, and this can be run as many times as needed. CSV data file is generated each time for review. Review your reports and correct errors, and then rerun the unit record report to produce that final CSV file. Download your CSV data file to your desktop or local network drive and upload the CSV file to the WASAC portal.
So some tips and best practices: upload your CSV file early. Don't wait until the deadline. It just makes good sense. If you're able to upload it, then you're not at the deadline spending the weekend before trying to get it done. So you may be able to take it in stages. That's up to you. One thing I would like to talk about is reconciliation with your business office to make sure, and against your system, to make sure that you match. We've run into some issues with institutions where they have not reconciled against their business office necessarily, and so we do find a lot of errors. I would encourage you to make sure that you make sure you've drawn down your funds and return, just what you do. I mean, you need to reconcile Pell like every 30 days. It could be a good practice to look at your state aid as well. Review WASAC's 23-24 unit record manual and training materials. Test your uploads using the portal training environments, and the URL is listed here. The training portal right now is available for 23-24. The live portal, as I said in the beginning, it's not quite ready yet. We hope to have it ready by Thursday or Friday at the latest. Could be a little sooner, but we will let you know. Use the unit record informal reports to check for consistency and validity. For the CTCs, review the SBCTC 2324 processing guide when available. And contact WASAC with questions or issues that haven't been addressed in or aren't addressed in the unit record manual. We recommend that you update your portal and portal training bookmarks so that you are able to find them pretty easily. We will send notification when this session's been posted to the web and is available for you to share with others. Are there any final questions before moving to the portal application? At this point, what I'd like to just say about the different deadlines is I can certainly let Becky know that there is a concern about being able to complete the unit record in a timely fashion, or at least by our deadline. So I won't be giving her any information she's not aware of, but I can certainly let her know that there was concern in this session about institutions not being able to complete the process by the 14th of October. So it hasn't followed, just much of that is out of our control. So we can control what we can control, and we will move forward with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marla. Most of you are familiar with our main landing page for the portal, and the URL is shown there at the very top of this slide. There is one additional way to get there a little bit more indirectly, and that is to go to our WASAC agency website. And under the administration tab, the portal link is directly under that. So clicking that on the main website or using this URL will take you to this particular page. And there are two ways to log in. If you log in through this unit record report button, it will take you to the unit record once you've entered your login ID. If you go to this more general login button, it will take you to the main screen, which you see here. And then you would select programs under the home menu and then unit record. The drop-down list will depend on what programs you are currently authorized to access. So don't be surprised if your list is either shorter or longer than what I show here. The welcome screen and upload screen are slightly changed from last year. We've eliminated all the additional language we had at the top about it being a 3.0 new upgrade because this year we figure you're all pretty familiar with what that screen looks like. Once you've arrived here, you'll notice there is that navigation bar, which will move along with a check mark as you progress toward the submit stage. In the meantime, in order to initiate, you would browse your PC or your laptop to choose a CSV file and start your upload. I do want to mention that if you need a copy of the blank CSV template, it is here. It is the sample file, so you do have to eliminate a few of the instructional materials that are on there, but if you do need to get a copy, it is available from this page. Also, I want to make note in this red boxed in area that If there are records that exist in our portal or program records here at WASAC, but they are not in your upload file, WASAC will auto-create a blank record for that student, and it is added to your unit record. So don't be surprised if something like that occurs. It's a heads up to you that you need to take a closer look at the records that you see in your unit record to identify which students those are. Once you've clicked your Start Upload, it will process your errors and drop down this successfully uploaded screen. At this point, you want to take a quick look at this class summary to make sure that it appears to be what you were expecting in terms of how your students are divided out by class size. And if this is correct, you can click the blue continue button, which will take you to the errors page. However, if indeed you do not have a successful upload, that means the file did not upload at all, and you will see a pink box with a list of your errors by row. It will tell you what the field problem is. So in this case, it says is state resident, and for that one, it is an invalid value. So you would need to find this row in your original upload file and address it. You can download a CSV file with all of your errors by clicking this button here. And once you've made the corrections in your original file and save them, then you can click this try again and go through that upload process. Before we get too much further, I want to just mention the types of error statuses that you could encounter in the unit record. The first is the critical errors, and that's what you see whenever an error prevents your file upload, which is what you found in that pink box that I showed you in the prior screen. It prevents that file from uploading altogether. Those errors have to be corrected before you can make an attempt to re-upload that revised file. A must fix are those non-overwritable errors that will allow a pass through that initial upload, but that have to be addressed and corrected before the unit record will allow you to submit your file. Overwritable are errors that either require a correction or some type of an explanation. If you believe that there is a valid reason for that error existing, once you've entered that override error message, we do take a look at that, and then we will respond to you if we have some additional comment or need more information. And in that case, you will see that we would revert your file for those responses. Informational are errors that may or may not require a correction. As mentioned earlier in this presentation, there are only 2 informational errors that exist now. And if indeed there is no change that needs to be taking place, those can be bypassed. We prefer that you at least enter something there so that we know that you have looked at it, because we may still have questions. And if it's been totally left blank, we don't know for sure that you've actually looked at it, and we may question that. Once you've clicked that continue button after your upload, it will take you to the errors screen. You see that it has moved on the navigation bar, and this screen will list all of the errors of all types that were initially screened and found in your upload file. You can filter this list or sort it by any number of ways. You can see here that you can sort by the columns, you can filter by the status, and I have a screenshot here of what those statuses are, as well as by the error types. And there's a screenshot here. And the error types will only list the errors that are found in your error list. So if there is an existing error in our manual that did not trigger in your report, you will not find that error here. It's only the ones that were triggered from within your file. You can download this entire error list if you prefer to kind of take a look at them. And some schools I know divide out how they address the errors. They have, if you're large enough, some of them will assign a particular error type or a group of error types to one person and then a different type of error to another. So you can download that, separate them out, and then, you know, you're able to even make some initial notes there before you go in and actually work on the errors within the unit record. In order to open a specific record, you'll see that the Social Security number is highlighted in blue. Just click on that and it will take you to that record. This is an example of a student record. In this particular case, we're looking at it from the error screen, and it will show only the errors for that student. Please note that because you are in that student record, there is no clickable highlight here under the Social Security number. In order to navigate that student record, you would click on one of the 4 tabs. If you need to make a correction or view what other information is within that student record, you would click on these. Errors can be corrected directly here on this errors page by clicking this box and then entering the override reason. And we'll go into that a little bit more in a later screen. Before you make it, after you make a change, be sure that you click the blue Save button before you leave that screen or return to list, in order to be sure that the unit record retains your changes. This is a copy of an example details page, and you'll see that it includes a lot of just direct student information, their demographics, information that came directly from their ISA or WASFA, family income budget information. So this is where, if you have any changes to make on those components, you would click directly into the field and make sure you click Save. This is an abbreviated view of the Terms tab, and you'll see here it lists the 5 different enrollment terms and changes that are made to the enrollment, if need be, can be made directly in these drop-down boxes. In order to see the programs that are available, you can click Show All, and it will drop down a list of all reportable programs. In this abbreviated list, what you'll see is only the programs for which you have entered some type of an award for that student. If you find you click this and it doesn't drop anything down, you may need to unlock that screen first and then click this, because some people like to see all of the programs all of the time, so you can lock that view. If you only want to see an abbreviated version, you would unclick this Show All and then click the lock. And that way you only see the programs for which you have awards for that student. A reminder again, if you make changes, be sure to save. This is a view of the On File tab, and here is where you will see a comparison of what you are reporting in this unit record, what we see in the program data, which could either be Seesaw or the program components that are in the portal. And these particular programs are not in Seesaw, but if you see awards here, that means that we do have records in those program pages of the portal. So it will compare to what you report in the unit record. This final column is information that comes directly from the ICER or WASFA that you have reported on the details page, and you'll see the transaction number here that should match what you have placed in that details page. Anything that does not match will show a red X. In this case, the ICER WASFA shows a 78,883 family income, and the unit record and Seesaw data show 78,283. I want to mention that this will create an error that you'll see in this errors tab. However, what you report here or what's reported in Seesaw may or may not need to be corrected based on this information. And the reason for that is there are some exceptions that you can deduct from the family income, and the formula that the ICER WASFA that's reported here on this on file may not take that into account. So you do need to check your records if you believe this is correct and that you have deducted income that's legitimate to deduct. Make sure that that's what you tell us in that override comment, because we will take a look at this. And if we cannot see those income types that are deductible here in the ICER WASFA, we may come back and ask you about it, but don't just take this as the actual amount, because there is a formula that backs this, and it does not take into account all of the types of income that may be deducted from that income source. Here, the same thing with the EFC. You can see that the ICER WASFA generally reports on a 9-month basis, which is your full academic year. If you've told us that that student is only has a need duration of, say, 6 months, we understand that this may be reduced from what you see in the 9-month standard. So depending on the reasoning, you will see the differences, but they don't always need to be addressed and changed. Now, you can address overrides directly from the student record. And what you would do is click the box in front of the Social Security number for that specific error. And then it will activate this override reason field, which you can then enter your override comment and then click this blue button. And you will see that if you're only addressing one error, it will say one error. In the case of a bulk override, that number will change to the number of records that you have clicked. And in the case of being in an individual student record, we would generally expect to see only one here rather than several. But clicking this will process that override and make sure that you click save to be sure that it retains that information. And here in this example, this is still red because when I took the screenshot, I had not yet clicked save. But once you have saved that, it will turn green and say overridden. You can review your override comment either at this time or later if you're going back through your unit record by hovering your cursor over that green overridden or the blue eye icon, and it will show a pop-up box with your response. Or you can view that override comment as part of the error list by clicking the word overridden, and it will drop it down into this this screen so that you see exactly what you've written. I just want to point out here that if that comment is overwritable with an update that can be edited, you will see a blue pencil icon. And generally speaking, we'll cover this, I think, mostly in the next slide, but I want to mention that generally speaking, until this unit record is submitted, your comments can be edited. Now, they are editable only by the original writer prior to unit record submission. And before the the WASAC reviewer responds to that override comment. Now, if we give you a reject comment and revert the unit record, then that editing capability for this particular override comment is removed. And that is different from how you saw the screen last year. But so if it has been submitted and reverted, you no longer have access to prior comments for editing. Okay. If it has been reverted, you are able to respond to our reject comment, which you see here. And that is done by clicking that error, dropping it down, and then this box will activate. You can override our reject comment with a response and then save it. And what it does is it creates a history of that override comments so that you can go back and we can go back and see the progression of the resolution of that error. There is a lot more detail in Chapter 3 of the Unit Record Manual, beginning on page 42. And there are additional screenshots that take you step by step through that process. I believe you may have some questions about that if you encounter this issue, because it is a slightly different process once that unit record has been submitted and reverted. Now, I do want to mention that if hopefully this doesn't happen, but if the unit record is reverted a couple of times, you are still able to add the new comments and to edit until you resubmit. It's just that you cannot make edits to prior comments from a previous submission. So, okay. Now, in terms of resolving Social Security number differences, there are a couple of different ways that they are addressed, and they all depend on where that Social Security number error originates. If it originates in the unit record, which is noted here, you can correct that Social Security number directly in that unit record. You go to that main error screen and you open and edit that record. The Social Security number appears on that details page. And so go ahead and make that correction there and save it. And if you need to, you can actually use that search students function in order to find that record and correct it from their details page. Now, if the incorrect Social Security number actually originates outside of the unit record, in Seesaw, for example, or in one of the programs on the portal, then you will need WASAC assistance to correct it. There is a button on most of your screens that says send us an email. That is a secure email that comes to us through the portal. And you would provide for us the name of that student, tell us what the correct social security number is, tell us what the incorrect social security is so that we can identify that. And then we will initiate a merge or a correction in our records through our IT staff. It does require IT intervention to make those corrections when there is a mismatch between Seesaw and the unit record. This is also the process you would use if you have duplicate students, same student, different SSN, or same student with maybe slightly different names that need to be merged. You would use this, send us an email and provide us with those details so that we can make sure that those get addressed for you right away. The ability to process bulk overrides still exists. We do ask that you be judicious about how you apply those. Be sure that when you select an error type, that you do review the records that are within that error grouping to be sure whether or not a specific record merits a bulk override with other records, or whether that particular student needs to have a specific individualized response provided. We found sometimes that a blanket override was applied in bulk, and when we check those, because we do check each of those records, we sometimes found that that override reason did not apply. So we want to be sure that when you apply a bulk override, that it actually does apply to that individual student. And here, as I mentioned, after review, you would click the individual records that you want the bulk override to apply to. Now, if you've reviewed and they all need that same override comment, click the little box next to the Social Security column at the head of that error screen, and it will select all of the records within that category. It will activate this override reason field, and you'll see here this blue override button indicates that 7 errors were selected in this particular case. Once you've entered your override comment and click that and then save, it will apply this comment to all of the records that have been indicated it is applicable to. Now, in order to delete those bulk overrides, you would kind of do the same process. You would click on the ones that you decide that does not apply to, and that will highlight this delete overrides button because it already sees an override has been applied. But this will highlight and it will indicate the number of overrides that you have selected that you want deleted. Click it and then click save, and it will revert those override comments. If you need to search for an existing unit record, there are you go back to this upload screen and you'll see a button there that says Search Students. Click on that and it will open up your search screen. There are a couple of ways that you can conduct your search. If you have a set of records that you want search for, you can include a comma-separated Social Security list that you can download here or upload here. If you are looking for a specific student, or if there's something about a series of records that would be the same, say you're looking for anything that shows $10,000. If you put that in here, it will populate this search screen with any record that has $10,000 in any one of these columns. So there are a couple of ways that you can search. And then once you've found your list, then you can click into those individual records. Once you've opened that record, you can edit that record in whatever tab needs to be addressed. And then make sure that you save that and then return to the list. And I believe if you're in a search list, it will take you back to that search list. Quite often this will return you to the errors page, but I believe if you're in a search, it will take you back to that search list. Now you'll notice here there is a button to delete that record. I would say be very cautious. If this is a student that has an award that exists in one of our portal programs, either Seesaw or in any of those individual program pieces that's in the portal, it will not truly delete that record. But it will do is it will delete the information and leave you with a blank record that then needs to be addressed. So be very careful when you do this delete to be sure that you are making a correction to match either Seesaw or those program records. Because if you delete and there is an existing award in those others, this record cannot truly be deleted until a repayment is made or an adjustment in either Seesaw or in those program records to zero out that award. If you have questions about that, please review the manual and also give us a call with the unit record team, and we will help walk you through that and talk to you a little bit more about how to adjust that record before you go to the point of discovering that you have to re-enter information. Now, to manually add a student record, there are actually two places where you can do that. You can do that from this error screen. There is a gray add record button. And if you prefer, you can go back to that upload screen. There is an add record button there as well. When you click that, it will open up a totally blank unit record. And you can see here, there are only two tabs that need to be completed. One is the details page, and the other is the terms page. We ask that you complete those in full before you click save. And what you will find is if you have entered information on a brand new record, if there are errors, it should tell you right away. It will populate this error screen and tell you how many that needs to be addressed. Now, if you don't see any errors or you've addressed what you've found and you click save and you go to report, we ask that you click this revalidate button from the main errors page periodically. And what this does is it will reprocess your errors so that if something got missed, it will show up in that errors list. And then you are able to address that before you get to the submit screen. Now, in terms of deleting records, you can do that manually as well. As I mentioned, please be very careful about that because the auto-added records cannot be deleted. But if you're confident that what you're doing is matching your record to our Seesaw or program records, and there's no other reportable information in this record, you can delete. So you would click that gray delete button. It will ask you to confirm. And once you've confirmed, that record is gone. In terms of the supplemental file upload, you must use a valid CSV header, which would be the same as the one that you used for your original upload file. It must include complete student information for each data row where you are making a change, adding or deleting a student. So you can make mixed types of changes on that supplemental file upload. If you're editing an existing record, make sure that that full data row is still complete and edit only the fields that need change. The caveat with this is that if you're changing an existing record, if you leave blanks in that row, it will overwrite that and put blanks in that record for that student, which means then that it will most likely trigger other errors that need to be addressed. So it's important for you to be sure that, you know, if you're trying to change or edit an existing record, that all of that information is retained on that row and that you're only changing the fields that need to be updated. Once you have uploaded a supplemental file and it's successful, you have to edit those records from the search or the error screen, or else you need to upload a compensating supplemental file that removes that error that, you know, may have been triggered. If the supplemental file itself was unsuccessful, you will see a download error file with that pink box with the critical errors that need to be fixed before you attempt to reload that revised file. And in that case, you will see a try again button. So in the event of an unsuccessful upload, none of the information in that supplemental file would have made it to be added to the existing unit record. Here's a cutaway example of just a portion of a supplemental file in Excel format. Actually, it should be in CSV format. And I'm just highlighting here the column for is delete to show you how you would populate that field. With your initial field, all of the information showed false because you are adding records in that initial upload. With a supplemental file, you would indicate false if all you're doing is adding a record or making a change to an existing record. The only reason you would put true is if you're attempting to delete that record. And as I said, deleting records, if it's an existing record with existing awards that are present in the portal, you might find that this will delete the information for that student, other than it will leave a skeleton file that will still need to be addressed. After you've created that supplemental file, the place that you would upload it is back on this upload page, but you notice that, you know, that original upload information isn't there. There is a specific button that says add file, and that file would be the supplemental file. Once you click it, you will then open up that familiar browse button where you locate your supplemental file in your laptop or desktop unit, and then start your upload. As I mentioned, if it's successful, you'll receive that message right away. If it is an unsuccessful upload, it will say it is, you know, did not upload, and you'll see that pink box with all of the errors in it. You can download the report. If it's an unsuccessful one, there is one that talks about download errors report. It's not shown in this particular example, but you can download your errors just as you did for your original file in order to make those corrections and try again. I caution you about clicking this delete all unit record data, because that actually deletes all of your unit record data. And you would have to start over from scratch. So that's just something to keep in mind. This is also the point in time download report, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But this one can be very helpful to you. Now, as you're going through your unit record report, if there is any information that you feel might be important for WASAC staff to know, that perhaps there isn't a place to enter your comment, say in a student record as addressing an override, but it has to do with more general information or information that you want us to see as a highlight. There is this add a note, and you'll see here on most of your screens, there is an add a note button. If you click that, it will open this screen with a field that's blank that you can complete, provide us with whatever information you feel is important, and then click Save Note. These are editable as well by the originator of that note. It is a history. Multiple people from your institution that are working in that unit record can add notes, and it will just add to the history. Just know that you aren't able to edit notes from another staff member from your school. Okay. And these notes come to us when you submit your unit record, and that way, if there's something that we need to take into consideration as we're reviewing that unit record, this is a good way for you to let us know up front before we start our review. After you've addressed all of the errors and all your edits are complete in this error screen, you will see that this blue continue to review button will appear. It does not appear until all of those are addressed. So go ahead and click that. It will ask you to confirm, and then you'll move forward to see the program totals report. This is a supplemental, this is a preliminary file. It does not provide final program totals. This includes all of the records that you have uploaded into the unit record, including those that are considered extraneous at the end of the year. And the extraneous records are the ones where the student received not $1 of need-based aid. So what we suggest is that you review these totals, and then if they appear correct, you can confirm the report, which will move you forward towards the submit. However, before you do that, we ask that you download a PDF so that you have it for comparison to what comes out in January. We find that sometimes this preliminary totals report is important whenever we're working on your next year's unit record, because we can look at apples to apples about how your report looks at the initial upload and submit process. Because it will show what your population looked like in terms of the spread of these aid programs, you can look at the prior year and see that they look maybe similar. Because once those extraneous records are removed, the percentages change. And so the final report is important to have to know where you land at the very end, but these preliminary reports are important so that it can be used for comparison, not just currently, but in a future year whenever you're trying to determine whether something truly is off or whether this is how your report looks at this point in the process. So go ahead and click confirm report. It will ask you to reconfirm it by continue to submit, and that will take you to this final submit screen. At this point, your report is not yet submitted. Before you do so, we need you to look at this WCG, CBS, and passport differences button. And when you click that, you will see that there are actually 4 programs that are within that. In addition to the 3 I just mentioned, Bridge Report is also here. These are the screens that show you what we see on our end as reviewers. If you have, let me see here. I'm just going to go to this next screen because it will help. If you have addressed the difference with an override, you will see it says yes. And then you can hover your cursor over that little blue eye and it will tell you what you told us. And if there are differences like this, where our Seesaw award would say that we only gave you 2,700 and you've reported 11,000, most likely instead of a valid override, you may need to go back into that unit record and adjust it. But it will help you determine whether or not these are valid overrides. If there is a no, that means that you have not addressed that error and you need to go back to that record. So it's very important for you to look at each and every one of those. Like I said, this is when your unit record is submitted, this is the report that we make our notes on and send back to you through the secure portal. So you have an opportunity to see what it is we see, at least for these 4 programs, and whether or not you might be able to correct those or be prepared to answer our questions when that comes back to you. Now, after you have reviewed those 4 reports, you will click this Return to Report Summary, and it will take you back to this Submit screen. You can then click I've reviewed the report. It's actually 4 reports, but click that. And it will then ask you whether you're ready to submit. If you click that, it will ask you to confirm. And then once you've clicked that, the unit record will actually reprocess your errors. And if it finds any, it will give you a red alert that tells you that you need to go back to the errors page. But generally speaking, if you've gotten this far and there are no unaddressed situations, then you will receive the successfully submitted notice. At this point, I'd like to discuss the point in time data file upload. Back on this upload screen, there is that download report. This is what we call the point in time download, and it is your full unit record, including all of the corrections and edits that you've made. It does not include your comments, your override comments, but it does include all of your data. We suggest that you download a copy of that and keep it for your records so that you have it in case you need to refer to it, or, as a historical file, in case there's ever questions later. Actually, this report can be downloaded at any point while you're working on your errors. And it will give you a copy of your data file at the point in time that you request it. So if it's not submitted, it is not a final download file. It would be whatever interim file you have at the time that you have been preparing your corrections. As I mentioned, it can be useful in creating that supplemental file upload, because that will be the place where you can copy that entire record information if you're going to place it into a supplemental file. In other words, copy that row, paste it into your supplemental file, and that way you have that full range of information, and then go in and correct the field that you want to change for that student. So as I mentioned, we feel it's important that you keep this, if nothing else, for your history. Now, also, after you have submitted, you will see that there is a drop-down box where you can select the current year or any of the 3 previous years, and you're able to access copies for download of the demographic distribution reports, the final program totals report in January, as well as these passport and WCG CBS differences reports, whatever is the residual after everything has been closed and finalized. You'll notice here that the profile reports shows as grayed out. That's because at the time you submit your unit record, that's not available. It does highlight when we make those available to you, hopefully in January. And you're able to go in to access copies of those for up to 4 years. And these 4 reports are what you find in the profile reports once that is activated. All right. I believe that concludes the presentation of the portal unit record tool. Are there any questions that I can answer for you before we move to our final slides? Okay. Stephanie?
Thank you, Anne. The Unit Record Processing Guide is available on the ctcLink Reference Center. And I do want to state that if you downloaded the guide prior to yesterday, August 12th, between that 8/6 timeframe and yesterday morning, our manual would link to the July version of the WASAC Unit Record Manual. So I just wanted to call attention to that the link has been updated in our guide as of yesterday morning. If you need assistance, contact FA support team for questions with setup or how to run the ctcLink Unit Record Report. And you can file a ticket via the service desk under the ticket category of ctcLink Support, Financial Aid, FA, URR.
This concludes our presentation. All righty. So all of us, thank you for your time and attention today. We definitely look forward to working with you. We know that this has been a difficult year, a couple of years for all of us in terms of the workload and the changes that have happened. And we want to let you know we are here. Please reach out if you have any questions or if there's anything we can do to help you and assist in the unit record. So thank you so very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.